Dialogue in your novel. What is it? Why is it important? And how on earth do we write it well? Hi everyone, my name is Liselle Murray from Now Novel, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to include dialogue in your novel. Today we're going to be looking at dialogue that creates descriptive narration, reveals character traits, moves your plot forward, and how to avoid unnecessary dialogue tags. If this interests you, please keep watching and stay tuned for more examples and tips. Let's get into it. Within storytelling, dialogue creates suspense, anticipation, reveals clues, and solve story problems. Therefore, it is super important that you make your dialogue cut to the chase. In everyday life, we use filler words like and like, oh, so there where I was going, I was saying. We go on unnecessary tangents. Now, in your own dialogue, you need to make sure that you avoid such kinds of filler words unless it is essential to the character. You really want to try avoid adding any excess information that hinders the progress of your story or doesn't add to the progression of your story. The first example today from a really effective dialogue that cuts to the chase is from Donna Tartt's novel A Secret History, which I am going to be giving you my best performance of. My voice was slurred and the operator wouldn't give me the number of the taxi company. You have to give me the name of the specific taxi service, she said. We're not allowed to. I don't know the name of the specific taxi service, I said thickly. There's not a phone book here. I'm sorry, sir, we're not allowed to. Red Top, I said desperately, trying to guess the names. Make them up. Anything. Yellow Top, Town Taxi, Checker. Finally, I guess I got one right. Or maybe she just felt sorry for me. So there's two things here that we can take specific note of that creates a sense of urgency and also cuts to the chase within the dialogue. The first thing is the fact that the protagonist, Richard, is interrupting the caller. And also the inclusion of the final sentiment, or maybe she just felt sorry for me. By having your characters in the dialogue cut each other off, it shows this sense of urgency and builds up anticipation, showing that something is important to the character. The second thing is that Tartt avoids needless pleasantries like "Hi, how are you?" or "Goodbye, yes, have a nice day." But don't get me wrong, pleasantries can be important if they are used intentionally and specifically to show a specific relationship between the characters. It could show that these characters are kind of awkward with one another, or it can show that they are just acquaintances. Remember, everything in your novel has to have a specific intention. Just a side note, if you are feeling a little bit lost or stuck with all of this dialogue writing, Now Novel does offer a 4-week dialogue course for you, a step-by-step guided process. It includes video courses, workbooks, and professional feedbacks on your final assignment. If that sounds remotely interesting, the link is in the description below. The second tip that I have for you today is blend your dialogue with descriptive narrative. Okay. What does that mean? What this means is that you are creating a sense of place and time through your dialogue for the reader to engage with. Using another example from Tartt's novel, I want you to look at how she engages with the setting of the bathroom in the dialogue between the protagonist Richard and the character Judy Poovey. I was in no mood for talk. I was unpleasantly surprised to find Judy Poovey brushing her teeth at the sink. "Hi, Richard," she said, and spit out a mouthful of toothpaste. She was wearing cut-off jeans that had a bizarre, frantic designs drawn on them in a magic marker and spandex top, which revealed her intensely acrobicized midriff. "Hello," I said, setting to work on my tie. "You look cute today." "Thanks." "Got a date?" I looked away from the mirror at her. "What? Where are you going?" By now, I was used to her interrogations. So we see the setting of the bathroom develop between their dialogue. Judy spits into the sink. Richard adjusts his tie in the mirror. This is more effective because it integrates the setting within the dialogue as opposed to Tartt just simply saying they were in the bathroom. Also, something interesting to note is that these characters, they do share pleasantries, but you can see that it's effective because it is used to create that sense of awkwardness between them. You can see that they aren't really comfortable with each other, or even Richard doesn't really particularly like her. This ties in really nicely to my third point of the day, which is using dialogue to reveal key character information. Dialogue is an effective way to show the voice of a character, their traits, and their motivations. So when writing the character, think about these 3 things: their style of speaking and their speech patterns, subjects they frequently speak about, and how frequently they speak about these subjects. All of these elements are useful in understanding the character and developing the plot, and understanding the choices that the characters make throughout the story. Simple and subtle syntax can also really help to reveal key character traits. For example, if you include ellipses into the character's speech, and you do it frequently, it can show that this character tends to trail off in thought, or they are quite unsure of what they're saying, or they tend to speak quite slowly. So my fourth tip for today is learning how to create dialogue which drives the plot forward. I'm going to keep this a little bit simple. You can think about two ways that you can drive the plot forward: the act of interruption and the act of eavesdropping. Eavesdropping is essentially when the character hears something that two other characters or more are speaking about that they're not supposed to. This is especially effective in murder mysteries, for example, if the antagonist hears key information about the protagonist. The murderer hears about the schedule of the detective, and then they're gonna go and intercept them, and The second thing is interruption. So for example, if two characters are having a very intense and serious dialogue, then a third party comes in and interrupts them. You're left wondering, did the third party hear what they had to say, the secret private conversation? Are they going to continue this conversation? You get the picture. Tip number 5 that I have for you today is avoiding unnecessary dialogue tags. Dialogue tags are used to show who is speaking in the conversation. Most obvious example is he said, he grumbled. He grumbled is a more effective way to show the emotional state of the character, but sometimes you can really cut down on these dialogue tags. And I'm not saying that you should never use the verb said, but oftentimes if you use it way too much, your dialogue becomes really clunky and can restrict your dialogue from flowing nicely. For example, hello, I said. Is it really you? I can't believe it's so long. She said, sorry, I've been such a hermit. I said, smiling. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Now I'm gonna compare it to this. Hello, surprised. Is it really you? It's been so long. Sorry, I've been such a hermit. I said, smiling. So why is this important? Because it helps us focus on the content of what the characters are saying, as opposed to that the characters are speaking to each other. But with that being said, finding alternatives for your dialogue tag like whispered, spat, shrieked. It's like adding seasoning to your novel. Think of those things as paprika, thyme, pepper. If you add too many, your dish becomes overbearing, no matter how delicious the spices are. You want to have your dialogue tags be as invisible as possible. You don't want to end up like the Twilight Saga New Moon, where Stephenie Meyer made Jacob Black chuckle 38 times in total. Just in New Moon alone. I've touched on this earlier, but dialogue is one of the most essential ways to reveal the relationships between the characters. That's why tip number 6 is dialogue that reveals relationship between the characters. Truth is reflected between the lines. Excuse the pun. You can actually learn a lot through films when writing your dialogue, because you start to discover that characters rarely outrightly say how they're feeling. It's normally subtly that characters reveal their true intentions, because even in our day-to-day lives, we rarely say what we really mean. A lot of times true meaning is expressed through how we say it as opposed to what we are saying. For example, you can effectively write an abusive relationship by looking at the microaggressions between the characters, the subtle power play, like one of the characters constantly interrupting one another, speaking over them, hiding information, eliciting fear in very covert and subtle ways. Through this, you can explore the subtlety of fears, the power dynamics between the two characters. The final tip that I have for you today, it might seem very obvious, but it's just as equally important. When you see some good dialogue or helpful advice, write it down. Like I said, movies are a great source for finding great dialogue, because our ears seldom lie about something that falls flat or something that just doesn't work. A lot of times when we're writing something down, it might seem like it's good, but then if you read it out loud, you're like, oh, that does not make sense. So once you've written your dialogue, make sure that you read it out loud and listen to it, or ask someone that you trust to listen to it as well. The great advantage of being a writer is that you can spy on people. You're there, listening to every word, but part of you is observing. Everything is useful to a writer. You see, every scrap, even the longest and most boring of luncheon parties. So again, listen, learn, watch real life, watch movies. It can teach you a lot about how to create effective, realistic dialogue. In summary, everyone, I gave you 7 tips today to improve your dialogue. 1. Cut to the chase. 2. Blend your dialogue with narrative description. 3. Reveal character information. 4. Drive the plot forward. 5. Avoid unnecessary dialogue tags. 6. Illustrate the relationship between your characters. 7. Observe and write down real-life films to get a great sense of how to write your dialogue realistically and effectively. That's it for today, guys. If you want some more help, please look down in the description below. I have a few links for you. You can check out our sources on Now Novel, any blog posts that can give you any more assistance, and you can get helpful feedback from our very own writers on your character dialogues. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and please follow us on Instagram if you want some more helpful tips on how to write your novel. Bye!